Hello there, my beautiful pumpkins, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the pumpkin patch. If you are new here, hello, my name is Chloe Taylor, and on this channel I believe we have the coziest, vibiest, autumnal corner of the internet. So if you like the way that I read, you like my style, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get new videos every single week. So today, my pumpkins, I'm so excited. This video is going to be all about what is stressing you out, because I feel like sometimes we might feel these feelings of intense anxiety, intense worry, or just like uncomfortability, but we don't know what is actually going on internally. Like, you can't pinpoint down what the stress actually is. So this is going to be like the very in-depth meaning. And before we get into it, I'm going to tell you about the crystals, of course, and which pile is which. But before we get into it, I just wanted to let those of you know that we're unaware, because you don't follow me on my social medias. I'm at Chloe Taylor. That from now until the end of Taurus season, which is around the 21st of May, I am running a birthday sale on my website where you can book personal readings with me. I also have courses. Currently, I have the Authentic Self course, and soon, it may already be up by the time this video is out, there will be an abundance mindset course. So if you're looking for anything like that to help you out right now until the end of Taurus season, because it is my birthday season, I'm doing 10% off if you use code TaurusBaby. So definitely check that out if it's something that you're interested in. And please remember, you can only ever book private readings through my website. I will never DM you or message you for personalized readings. That is always scammer nonsense. So today, we are doing 3 separate piles, and let me tell you a little bit about these significators and such, and then we'll get into it starting from pile number 1. So if you already know which one you're thinking about, I'll just go ahead and let you know which one's 1, 2, and 3. So this one here is pile number 1. This one will represent pile number 2. This will represent pile number 3. If you already know which one's vibing with you, go ahead and head to that timestamp. Now, pile number 1, you have the sigil number 10, which we will be talking about these sigils in depth in your reading. But you have sigil number 10, and you have this with a cloud etched piece of Amazonite. And this piece is actually new to me. It came from a local crystal seller. So very excited to include it in your reading. Pile number 2, you have sigil number 63 with this I want to say is a specular hematite. I know it's hematite. I'm just unsure of that first. I think it says it on the back. Yeah, specular hematite. Beautiful crystal, one of my newer pieces, and if you've been here for a while, you've seen it. I'm just really obsessed with it. And then pile number 3, you have a piece of aura quartz as well as sigil number 75. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the meditation music, give you some time if you're still unsure. And I also just want to remind you that you're never going to choose wrong. I do believe that no matter which pile you choose, there will be wisdom in there for you. And it's also okay to choose multiple. Some people actually listen to the entire video and decide at the end which reading was most appropriate for them. And there's no wrong way to do it. So go ahead and take some time with these different sigils now and decide which one is for you. I'm going to go ahead and turn up that music now. All right, so pile number 1, if you chose the sigil number 10, the Amazonite cloud, this is going to be your reading on what is actually stressing you out. And the first thing is the sigil. Number 10, this is actually the card of denial. And we're going to go into this card in more detail in a moment, but I first want to talk a little bit about these surrounding cards. So you have Princess of Pentacles, Nine of Wands, Eight of Wands, and the Lovers. And what this tells me is you're somebody that does the work, okay? You're somebody that I feel like you might even be someone that just really is willing to get in there, do the hard work, maybe even the emotional labor, the emotional work, or you might tell yourself a lot of like good positive things. I don't think that there's like, I'm not getting the feelings or the like clarity from spirit that you're somebody that just like puts everything off necessarily. I think that you have done a lot, but the thing is, there is still more, and I think you're in denial about that. I also think that you're very much in denial about the level of work that you do, just like in general. I think that you're overworking yourself, not necessarily emotionally or spiritually, but I think you are currently you are overextending yourself and you're in denial about it. And this could be that maybe you think you always have to caretake, you always have to nurture, you always have to be working to earn an income. There are so many ways to overextend yourself because remember, these cards are all what are the actual stressors. So if we look at the princess, I think I said page, but in this deck, it's the Princess of Pentacles. If we look at the Princess of Pentacles and we ask ourselves, how could that be a stress point? It's that we always feel like we have to be formulating new ideas for financial abundance. It's like you always think that the floor is going to be pulled out from under you or the rug is going to be pulled out from under you and you're just going to falter. And so there is this like need to always be on hyperdrive, and it's probably because you experienced something in the past where the rug was pulled out from underneath you. Maybe it's happened multiple times in your life and you fear that this is going to be the consistent for your future. But something that you need to know, pile number one, is that past results do not equal future projections. You can always make a change and things can always turn out differently. And if you're constantly being presented with a lesson, there is something that still needs to be garnered from that lesson. Now, with the Nine of Wands, the reason I was saying I feel like you're overdoing it is the Nine of Wands is like putting yourself in battle when you're not ready. It's putting yourself back out in the arena, back out into the battlefield. This is like dating too soon after a really harsh breakup. You know, this is putting yourself out there way before you're actually ready. And sometimes this can be a good thing. Sometimes this can like give us grit. It can give us resiliency. The Nine of Wands is not a bad card, but if we look at it under the lens of what is actually stressing you out right now that you haven't been able to get to the bottom of, it's that you keep pushing yourself too hard. And because of that, you keep ending up in this cycle where you might get really, really excited about doing a bunch of stuff. And then it's like you push yourself to do it, but you weren't ready in the first place. You weren't fully ready to put yourself into something new. And this is a continuous cycle is what I'm hearing from Spirit. The Eight of Wands tells me that you maybe even have received a lot of mega opportunity in your life. Maybe there's been a lot of things put on your plates, and these might all be exciting things. These might all be wonderful things. However, it's too much. You have to pick and choose. This is actually something that I was recently talking about in the last community event or 2 community events ago with patrons. Every month we do a community event. And this month I'm actually going to be doing 1 card question readings for the community event if you join the Patreon. I don't guarantee that everybody will get a reading depending on how many people show up, but they're usually pretty intimate, so I'm confident that I'll be able to do everybody, but I'm doing like personal 1 question readings for that this month if y'all were curious about that. But it was like 2 months ago in one of our private community events that a couple of you, we were on like a Google Hangout call. And I'm telling you all this for a reason. It lines up with what's going on here. We were in the Google Hangout call just talking, and a few of you had mentioned to me, this might not be the pile you chose, but a few people in the community were mentioning to me that they felt like stagnant in the creative passions that they had. And they looked to me as somebody that was an inspiration. And I was like, hey, that's all well and good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's so flattering. But something that you also have to realize is that when you live your life, like living off of your creative passion, your creative endeavors, there is always going to be more that you want to create that you do not have time for. And that is the reality of making a living off of creativity, is if you are truly a creative, inspired person, number one, the creativity is not always going to be available. There are going to be times where that's going to falter, and you might be in denial about that right now. Number two, there is going to come a time where if you think you can do it all, you are wrong. And you have to scale back the things that you're able to create, especially if you're like a one-person show, right? If it's just you doing everything, these people that are out there doing all these projects and all this like massive stuff, it doesn't mean that you're not capable, but you have to remember that a lot of them have teams behind them. Spirit's telling me to tell you these things for a reason. So some of you, this might be like really about like living a life that's in alignment with your creative passions. And what you're in denial about with yourself right now is how much work it would actually take. And that doesn't mean that you can't make a beautiful, quiet life for yourself living off of your creations, but there will come a time where you're going to have to balance that. And I get the sense that that might be where you're at right now. You've made something amazing, or you're wanting to make something amazing. It's one of the two, but there's part of the reality that you're not seeing. And there is no perfect career, unfortunately. There is no perfect anything for anyone. There's always going to be things that we don't love to do. And that's why it is important that we're able to hand off things. You cannot be the person at the helm always in control. It is a false illusion that you will always be able to be in control of every little thing. And the sooner you realize that, no matter what path you're going down, the easier your process is going to be. I get the sense right now that you really are overloaded though, and you need help. And I don't mean like mental professional help. I would never just like say it like that. I think that's such a rude way to say that. I mean like actual helping hands with like the workload that you have. You are one person, you need a team. And the Lovers card coming up as something that is stressing you out. This could be very cut and dry, that your relationship is just stressing you out right now if you're in a committed partnership. But this could also be that there is shadow integration that has yet to take place. There are parts of you that you think that you have overcome, but you have not. And they're right in your face, but you're not seeing it. It could come by the way of a partner. Like maybe there is a relationship that you're like, oh, I'm so happy I healed from that toxic environment. Or I'm so glad I had so many relationships in the past that taught me blank. But like you're still living that same relationship just in a different way. And again, that one is coming from Spirit. I don't think that is going to apply to every single person that's listening to this pile. But the Lovers, it is either a partnership that is causing stress, or it is a lack of shadow integration and a lack of being able to see the parts of yourself that need to be integrated still. Now let's talk about this denial card a little bit, because this comes from, I'm actually going to read this to you. It's kind of lengthy, but it's going to be helpful for you for right now. So just listen in for a moment. It says, denial. If you had drawn this sigil, you are currently in denial in this situation. The question is, what are you avoiding admitting to or accepting? Denial is refusal to accept or admit to the truth of the reality of something unpleasant. An example of this is a person who has been left by their spouse, who continues to think and speak and act as if they are just on vacation. When you can't deal with, change, or eliminate something painful, in order to avoid despair, we simply deny whatever is painful. But it is a powerful unconscious state of being, because to slip into denial, a person has to stop seeing, feeling, and hearing any proof to contradict it. At some level, they have to go into a bubble so as to not be reached by the proof of the world. You might think that denial is a good tool. After all, if someone could ignore proof in a law of attraction-based universe and focus on what they want to be true, they will manifest that into reality instead, right? Wrong. Denial is a state of resistance and suppression. It is pushing against what is unwanted. It is a refusal to accept something. It is a war with what is, and whatever we resist persists. Keep in mind that denial is not just about denying that there is a problem. Some people see there is a problem, but their denial comes in the form of minimizing the impact it has on their lives, excusing it, forgetting it, or rationalizing it. Ooh, that's the worst, in my opinion, is the rationalizing. Like when you know you deserve to be treated like a queen or a king or like royalty, let's say, you know you deserve to be treated like royalty, but yet you settle for crumbs. You settle for like the smallest thing when you know that you want more. And that to me is like rationalizing it. Denial does not work because unless you know where you actually are, you cannot know where you want to be. And you can't take the appropriate step between here and there. The lurking shadow underneath the denial is that and we talked about shadow because the Lovers is the shadow card. It's shadow integration. The lurking shadow underneath denial is that the person who is in denial knows in some place inside his or herself or their self that they are lying to themselves. One of the most dangerous places for there to be denial is in relationships. Denial in a relationship makes a relationship impossible. People may be in the same room physically, but they are in different realities completely. And usually the one who is not coping with denial is in torment because they are not just alone, they are alone in their pain. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid I might be in denial about right now? Make a list. Denial runs deep, but often it doesn't run deep enough to totally silence the little voice inside that is warning you about the potential truth of an unpleasant reality. Then ask yourself with each item on the list, if the voice of denial were not so loud, what would the unpleasant voice underneath be saying to me about the situation? See if you can really accept those unpleasant truths. Acceptance is the opposite of denial and avoidance. What does it mean to avoid something? To accept is to recognize something as valid or correct. Doing this makes your being consent to receiving it and digesting it as truth, instead of fighting to not acknowledge it and not take it in. Acceptance has nothing to do with condoning something or condemning something. It has nothing to do with whether you want to change something or not. It is simply about being able to acknowledge something as valid enough to let that acknowledgement in instead of fighting to keep it out. If you have drawn the sigil, take a look at the situation and ask yourself, what am I willing to accept about this situation? Why am I unwilling to accept that? If I accept that, what would it mean, or what bad thing would happen? So those are just like some things that I wanted to include in this reading. I thought like reading from the book, it's just like gives such a complete understanding of denial. I wouldn't say it's complete. I'm sure there's lots more we could have said, but I feel like it just gives such an introspective approach to this is what is stressing you out. You're denying a reality that's actually presently here. And it's causing contention within you. Now, what is the way through? Here's what I think is interesting, because we have 4 cards now that are the way through. Number 1, we have the 8 of Wands. So you have the 8 of Wands as a point of stress, but it's also a point of getting through. So we'll explain in a minute. We have the Chariot, the 10 of Cups. We love to see it. 10 of Cups is really nice. And the Knight of Wands. So this is also part of the way through, besides like getting into that nitty-gritty of denial. The 8 of Wands over the Page of Pentacles or the Princess of Pentacles, this tells me that you have a lot of ideas about financial abundance, but you actually need to take action on those things. Not overwork yourself, but ask yourself where you would stand to make the most income and focus on those pathways. Don't focus on the everything. Focus on the things that actually generate the most for you. The Chariot card, when it comes to continuously armoring up for battle when you're not ready, you need to move away from the battlefield, because the Chariot is about like packing up and moving along, packing up and moving yourself along, moving things, moving yourself, maybe even actually making a move, like moving away, for instance. Because I sense that you've been on this like really vicious cycle of constantly like feeling better and then falling into like the worst. And ask yourself if there was a time where you didn't feel that way, where you didn't feel like you were always preparing for battle and then it didn't like send you into a spiral of some kind. Because I think Spirit is saying that it could be something about your actual environment, like the people in it. This is why like denial, I think, is coming up so strong. You might need to actually move away, like move location, move house, move career. There is something about packing yourself up and going somewhere else and getting off of this. Because, yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. Now, the 8 of Wands and the 10 of Cups, this I think is really cool because the 8 of Wands, remember, it's that multiple opportunity. It's fast opportunity. It's a lot of things. But having the 10 of Cups be like the soother through the stress is that you need to balance more time with family and community instead of just constantly being on this like hyperdrive of doing everything. Focus on the things that are going to generate you the most and then pull back a little, because the 10 of Cups, this is about like having it all. It is the happy family. It is the happy community. It is the card that talks about having like fulfillment, but with the people you love close by, with emotional fulfillment, emotional connection. And that's something that's been missing. You've been too focused on what you need to achieve and way less focused on people and emotional connection in your life. And I don't think it's just one person. I think it's a lot of people that you need to connect with. So it could be that you come from a large family, you need to connect with them. Now, please remember, I am always the queen of advocating for your boundaries. And we all know that a lot of us came from toxic families. So if that's not your birth family, maybe it's your chosen family. Maybe it's a new community of people that you need to meet. But there is more emotional fulfillment that wants to come through. And that is going to help you to backpedal on just like basically overachieving all the time. And then we have Knight of Wands with the Lovers. And I feel like when it comes to shadow integration, there's two answers here, because in some of you, it might be both things as well. Remember I said part of it was shadow integration? For those of you that it's shadow integration, the Knight of Wands is about channeling that energy and creating something to help you integrate the shadow aspects of yourself. Drawing, journaling, singing, sculpting. It doesn't have to be specifically in the arts. I believe every person on the face of the earth is a creative and we all express it differently. So do what calls to you, but channel that energy into something. Poetry, right? And for those of you that it's a relationship, I'm going to tell you right now, there is somebody else that will love you so much more. And you need to be open to that. You have been settling for crumbs in this relationship, not getting what you want out of it. You've been more than patient. And this person is never going to be the person that I think would actually really suit you and love you the way that you desire to be loved. I feel like you constantly think that you are too much and you're always backpedaling yourself. And don't get me wrong, I am a firm believer that your significant other is not supposed to meet all of your needs. In fact, it's kind of toxic that we live in a society that thinks that that's the truth, because they're never supposed to meet all of your needs. You are here to meet your needs. However, if you constantly feel like you are too much, like you need to backpedal, that is not necessarily the mark of a healthy relationship. And there is somebody that will give you that same level of intensity, of passion, of romanticism, of whatever you're looking for. There is somebody out there that knows how to meet that and wants to fulfill it for you. And not that you can't date yourself, not that you can't romance yourself, not that you can't be that passionately in love with yourself, because I believe that you can. But for those of you that this is about a relationship for you, there is somebody else that will do it. And you just you're not open to it because you're so focused on making it work with this person. And I got something to tell you. You haven't even met every person in your life that will love you yet. And that is like one of my favorite truths of the world. Now, we do have a few more cards for you. So we have prioritize self-love and care. When do you feel more nurtured and cared for? So go where you feel cared for. Go where you feel cared for. And then rise above it. It's not yours to carry. You are an empath. How can you detach from the drama? So I hate it I don't like when people call themselves empaths. And hear me out. It's not because I don't think empaths exist. I just think that when you constantly identify as that and it's like your first thing, it's a red flag. And I could do a whole podcast talking about why it is that way. But a lot of times people that are empaths, it's trauma that created that empathy. And it doesn't mean that you're not highly intelligent and you don't notice the subtleties, but it's not necessarily this like spiritually given gift. It's usually a mark of somebody that's had a very hard life. And so I have a hard time with just the word empath. And I guess that's me coming through in this reading and I need to tone it back a little and reconnect. Let's just take a deep breath, everybody. That is real. Like, I'm still human, y'all. Sometimes when channel comes through, it's not always what I want to hear or what I perceive to be true, but that's not why I'm here. So let's just everybody take a deep breath. Okay. Rise above it. It's not yours to carry. You are an empath. How can you detach from the drama? So you might be somebody that is a more sensitive soul. And because of that, again, there's nothing wrong. And I say again, because I will always tell you this, there's nothing wrong with being sensitive. It's very sad to me that we often are in culture that teaches us that being too sensitive is a bad thing. And you have to remember that people that say that have never made room for their sensitivity. And so they see it as weakness. But it's actually really unfortunate because if they made more room for their sensitivity, they would be able to emotionally grow. And you're here to emotionally grow. You're here to be emotionally intelligent if you're getting this card. So to move through the stress, you need to go where you feel more ease, especially if you're somebody that has a heightened sense of sensitivity, I guess, a heightened sensitivity. And the last thing I want to leave you with, pile number 1, is just a little bit of bibliomancy, which I used to call it bookmancy, but that's not really what it's called. It's bibliomancy. Bibliomancy is where we flip to a random page in a book and we see what comes out for you. This is the book Ceremony by Brianna Wiest. Of course, I'll link it down below. But let's go ahead and see. All right, I'm going to read both pages because they're very short. It says, you got page 62 and 63. 62 and 63, yeah. 62 says, in stillness you receive guidance. In effortlessness you know what's right for you. In serendipity you find what's on your path. In acceptance you receive everything there is. It's interesting that you also got a passage about acceptance when we're talking about denial. And then you also got, you did not come here to be perfect. You did not come here to smooth out every line and crease of your heart. You did not come here to step in perfect succession with one milestone preceding the next, forever onward, until you arrive at death right on time, having bothered as few people as possible. This is not what you are here for. This is not what you came here to do. You were not born to rush through your becoming just to reach the other side. You were not born to be instantaneously perfected, but to piece yourself together slowly over time. It's beautiful. I got the chills. So that is what Spirit wanted you to hear today. Thank you so much, pile number 1, for tuning in. If you would like to support me more, please do head to KhloeTaylor.com. I have my courses available to you. I know for a fact at least one of them is out, The Authentic Self. It's $12. Remember, if you use Taurus Baby at checkout, it's 10% off, along with all of my private readings and astrology charts that are currently available to you. And I also have my Patreon where I put out new content every single week for you. When you sign up, you also get a back catalog of everything that's ever been posted there. So there's like tons of extra readings that have never been seen here on YouTube that are just over there. Like, I want to say we've done like something crazy, like 200 or 300 posts now. So When you sign up there, you do get a backlog of content, and it actually really does support me as a creative and as an artist myself. It's one of the best ways to support me is to join the Patreon. So definitely check that out if you want to get some extra content for yourself while doing so. And if you are feeling extra generous, it is never an expectation, but always appreciated. I do have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, and my wish list down below. Some of you have also asked for that wish list because it is my birthday month, and my birthday is coming up in literally like just a little over a week. I'm very excited, turning 32 this year. And I also have my podcast available to you that does have a YouTube channel now where I do video episodes, but it's also available on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as in that video format. All the links for that are down below. We are 140 episodes strong. The podcast is so much fun. It goes out every Monday. I would love to have you. It's called Divine Authenticity. We talk about literally everything under the sun there. And I feel like I'm forgetting to tell you something else, but just check out the description box. That's where all the fun things are, okay? That's where all the extra stuff is. If you want to follow me around the web, I'm at Kloee Taylor everywhere. And thank you again so much for tuning in. Please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. All right, pile number 2, if you chose the specular hematite, this is going to be your pile, as well as sigil 63. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about sigil 63 in just a moment, but I also want to talk a little bit about these surrounding cards. So we have Queen of Swords, the Fool, 3 of Swords, 9 of Wands. And this is like what is actually stressing you out. This is like the root of where the stress is coming from. So we have Queen of Swords is like, to me, it's a lack of boundaries. In the Fool also is maybe that you don't feel like there is enough freedom going on. Like you're feeling trapped. You're feeling trapped, most likely in like a situation or a relationship, because there is a lack of boundaries. There's a lack of freedom. The 3 of Swords tells me that maybe you also fear commitment of some kind because there was a past heartbreak, and this doesn't have to be romantic. This can be a relationship with anyone, right? I would argue, and I think most of you would agree, that sometimes friendship breakups are worse than romantic breakups. But there is like this past pain from the past that is coming into the now, or like fear of the same thing repeating. And then 9 of Wands, this is also like, I feel like you don't have a lot of support right now. Maybe you feel like you've been persecuted a lot or taken advantage of, or there's something about the past and like feeling like you have not had support. Like this to me is almost like that energy of like, gosh, have y'all ever watched Sex and the City? Like, I feel like Carrie and Big's relationship, it's like, if you haven't watched the show, then disregard this bit. But the main point is that Carrie always goes back to this guy in the show. His name's John, but he goes by Big, or she calls him Mr. Big. But they are like always, every season of this freaking show, they are on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again. And to be honest, their whole relationship, in my opinion, is a dumpster fire. But it gets to the point that her friends that are really, truly supportive, Carrie's friends, they tell her like, no more, like you have to stop putting us through this too. And I feel like we forget sometimes that you, of course, never had to be a doormat for somebody, but people just want to be heard and seen and supported. And so I feel like this could even be you. You could be the person that is Carrie that feels like you have no support for going back to a person, going back to a situation, working a certain job, even though you know you don't love it, or it doesn't like fulfill you spiritually, mentally, it takes from you in some way. Maybe it could even just be a perspective that you have about a person or a situation that is just so tiresome and you feel unsupported and unfulfilled by it. Because I also see that the 9 of Wands, it's like, see, there's all these other wands in the card with this person holding up, looking like they're defending themselves. The other wands are all burnt to a crisp, though, and on the ground. Like they have been exhausted, basically. But you're still standing. So that's why that says that to me. But let's find out what Sigil 63 is, and then we can keep going from there, because I have more cards, too. So this is from the book about this card. I'm just going to read this to you. It's a little bit lengthy, so just bear with me for a moment. Sigil number 63 is pushing them away. If you have drawn this sigil in this situation, you are pushing someone or something away that you shouldn't. Are you pushing someone away so that you can avoid the pain of them pushing you away? Are you pushing away their help? Are you pushing away their love? Are you rejecting someone? Are you demonstrating your disapproval towards someone? Are you being dismissive, minimizing, or unloving in some way to them? Are you denying something? Have you disowned something or someone from being a part of yourself? Are you telling yourself that someone can't see, hear, feel, or understand you? Are you maintaining a self-concept or being different from and apart from others? Are you telling yourself a story about something that is causing you to push it away? If you have drawn this sigil, you may need intimacy, but you are terrified of it. Intimacy can be broken down into a 3-word phrase, into me see. So intimacy, into me see. That's actually a really cool way to look at that. First and foremost, intimacy is to see into one another as to deeply connect. But intimacy goes beyond just seeing someone. Intimacy is seeing into, feeling into, listening into, perceiving and understanding someone. To give genuine intimacy with someone, we have to be willing to commit to becoming an expert on them. You may be terrified that intimacy is going to lead to something that feels bad. For example, we may be terrified that if we let someone really see the truth of us, they will not tolerate it or accept it. If they know the truth of us, they may use it against us later. If they know our weaknesses or vulnerabilities, they can capitalize on them to our detriment and conversely for their own best interests. If they know what we really want, they can use that to leverage control over us. If they give us closeness, we may feel obligated to make them happy in return, which is a kind of indebtedness, and consequently feel we have lost freedom as a result. If they find out things about us that they might judge as bad or wrong, they might increase their feelings of shame or even abandonment or reject us. If we let them in, they might find a way to engulf us completely so that we do not even have ourselves at all. It may be wise to spend some time imagining being completely close to someone and having no distance between yourself and another person so that they can see, feel, hear, understand you, and be permanently linked to you and see that deep imprint of fear arises in us as a result. And see, make sure I read that right. The sigil is asking you to look at what you are pushing away in the situation and why. The sigil is asking you to bring that thing closer, include it as part of you, and include it in yourself and your life instead of pushing it away. Wow. So this could be even about like parts of yourself that you push away, right? This could be, and I'm just going to say it, I really do not try to always advertise this because I genuinely don't need to. I feel like it sells itself, and I'm also not in it to just make a bunch of money. But I literally created a course called The Authentic Self that it's a workbook with a couple of audio guides that go with it. And if you feel like there is a part of you and this is making sense, like this is resonating with you, please go and look towards that course. It will explain parts work to you and help you to actually connect with this part of you that is stressed out. That's literally why it was designed and what it was designed to do and to like help you do. So that's on my website, KhloeTaylor.com. It's $12. Link down below for you, of course, always. But I feel like if it is a part of you and not necessarily a person or a thing, it's like you really want to be free, but you want to have boundaries. There is this like opposites. You have two conflicting inner forces. And this is why parts work and integrating parts of yourself. If you don't know what parts work is, it's basically meeting the different aspects of yourself and integrating them. That's like what the function of parts work is, because we all are multifaceted. All of us carry a multiplicity inside of us. And we have the inner child, right? We have the inner teen. We have the inner parent. And there's so much more than that. I explain it more in that course that I was talking about. But my point is that when you go and integrate these parts, you can get beyond this stress. So this is something that will help you. We're going to figure out why, like more into the reading, what else you can do with more cards. But there is two conflicting parts of you. There is a part of you that wants boundaries and a part of you that wants freedom. And or maybe doesn't have boundaries, but then when you don't have them, it creates this lack of freedom and safety in relationships. I do feel like this is emotionally taxing because the Three of Swords is an emotionally taxing card. It's the card of heartbreak. It's the card of disharmony in your like heart. So it's like maybe you even feel like you have a hard time creating intimacy or tight-knit relationships with people, and like everybody burns you, everybody hurts you, everybody leaves you. That might be your story. And there's more to this than that. I always say, when we have a pattern that continuously arises, there's something that we're meant to learn from it. And this is that moment for you right now where you are being confronted with this. Like in this reading right now, if you chose this pile, there is something that needs confronting within you, because until you confront that part of you internally, it's going to keep coming out in your external reality. So let's see what you can do. So we have the Six of Cups with the Queen of Swords. We have the Wheel of Fortune with the Fool. We have King of Pentacles with Three of Swords. And then Six of Swords, 2 sixes over the Nine of Wands. And I still have more cards too that we'll get into, but I wonder if there was an actual person that you're feeling stressed out about that represents a King of Pentacles. It could be a relationship. It could be like, I don't want to say that it has to be fatherly, but King of Pentacles always gives me big dad energy. Not necessarily though, you know, it depends on your like father's archetype, but King of Pentacles to me could be that, but please don't keep this to like they have to be gendered or like the person has to be male or female. Like they could just as easily identify as they, them. But King of Pentacles over the Three of Swords, I get the inclination that this is either a financial hurt, like you keep finding yourself in a similar financial situation and it really hurts, or you keep finding yourself in a relationship with a specific kind of person or like the way that you make money. Because King of Pentacles does represent like money and material wealth, material gain. So it also could have something to do with that. Now, how to get through though is actually to, I mean, King of Pentacles, if we're trying to break through heartbreak with a King of Pentacles, you have to get clear on your objectives. And I don't mean like before something can be actualized in your life, you have to bring it into the physical reality. So this brings me down to like the self-concept, like your self-concept and who you think you are. Because if you have the self-concept that you're somebody that always gets hurt and heartbreak always finds you, you have to start changing that by talking about yourself differently, by acting differently until it becomes a different reality. That's why like fake it till you make it actually does work, is because you have to create the reality that you want to live in instead of continuously telling yourself the same story. Six of Cups over the Queen of Swords. This tells me that this is where the parts work is. If you're somebody that you feel like you have those conflicting parts, the freedom versus boundaries, or maybe even freedom versus discipline, right? I don't mean discipline like, you know, the way that an abusive parent would physically discipline their child. That's not what I mean. When I say discipline, I always think of discipline as like lovingly disciplining yourself, meaning like, you know, if you have to get up early, a loving way to discipline yourself would be to get yourself on an early to bed schedule. That would be a disciplined action that is a very loving and supporting thing towards yourself. Or disciplining yourself to like have a workout routine or things like that. So I do feel like there's a part of you that wants more order, more structure, more discipline. And there's this part of you that is really afraid of it, that needs to be reconciled with. This is why I mentioned parts work. And you do not have to go through me for that. You can look that stuff up online other places, but I just wanted to give you that resource in case this is resonating with you, because I want you to have that help, genuinely. But Six of Cups is like going into the past as well, maybe meeting a past version of yourself or digging through your actual past. And you can do that in parts work as well. The Fool with the Wheel of Fortune. I actually feel like these cards kind of go well together because the Wheel of Fortune is like random. It's the random wheel. It's the wheel of karma, but it also is like dramatic windfall and financial abundance, but it's an abundance of a lot of things, right? Because the wheel, you spin it and you have no idea where it's going to stop, right? It's random. But I feel like in order to create more freedom, especially if you harbor a lot of fear, you have to remember that life actually is like, you can be in life on purpose, but sometimes random things happen, and it's not about controlling the random things. It's about giving yourself the tools to navigate the random things. That's literally probably one of the best pieces of advice that Spirit has here to give you today, is that yes, random things are going to happen. There's always things that get thrown at us that we don't always know what to do with. And it doesn't mean that we're always going to overcome or not have to deal with like hard emotions or hard feelings or hard situations. That's life. But if you know how to navigate those things, how to bring yourself back, have emotional resiliency, dealing with those things will be a lot easier. So to create that freedom, it's not like you have to overcome every single thing that you struggle with. It means that you need to create the tools, actions, and habits that are going to support you to overcome those things in the moment, even when they come up. I'm sorry if this message is coming through weird. I feel like my vision is a little bit cloudy today. Not like my seeing vision, but like my psychic vision. It's a little bit cloudy in this reading in particular. So I apologize if it feels kind of sporadic and all over. I feel like we've talked about so many things in this reading. Sometimes Spirit just do be like that. We're also in Mercury retrograde, and it's Mercury's day when I'm filming this. So it doesn't surprise me. Okay, and then the Nine of Wands with the Six of Swords over top. Nine of Wands with Six of Swords. Stop trying to get people to get into your boat. Listen, you are currently in the process of doing really deep work that is going to set you on the course to a better and different life. Not everybody's going to get on this boat with you. Not everybody's going to go where you're going. Not everybody wants to be on your boat, to be honest. And you don't need to fight for them. If they want to come with you, they will. You can't control who stays in your life. That's called people pleasing. And really, what do we know about people pleasing? People pleasing is not cute. It is actually manipulation. Even though it was taught probably to you as a coping tool and you had to use it at one point, now that we know better, we can change it. That's kind of, it's the same thing that we say about like healing, right? Where it's not your fault that you were traumatized, but once you become aware of it, it is your responsibility to heal if you want change in your life. And I feel like your back is up against a wall. You're fighting for yourself, maybe even to keep certain people in your life. Six of Swords says you got to just go your own way. You got to just do your own thing. You got to just get on your own boat. And if the people really love you, really want to be with you, really want to, it's not like that if he wanted to, he would, because I feel like that shit is toxic. But where there is a will, there is a way. And it's okay if not everybody comes with you into this next phase of your life while you are working through this. Now, we also have for you a couple more cards. So I have You Are the Joy Seeker. What little victories can you celebrate? So Spirit is saying to remind yourself that there are victories in your life worth celebrating right now. Even becoming aware is a victory to celebrate. Even as you decide to do parts work, if that's something you decide to do with yourself, that's something worth celebrating, making that decision. Spirit is basically saying that you're too hard on yourself. Whenever I pull this card, that's always the message I get, is that you're a little bit too hard on yourself and you need to celebrate yourself a little bit more. And then we also have your true tribe can't show up until you do. How can you show more of the real you? So That's the other thing. The more you try to grasp at keeping anyone in your life, this could be a significant other, family, friends, the more you try to grasp and make people stay, the less you make room for the right people to actually be with you. And don't you ever find that, like, if you clean a room in your house, or maybe your whole house, that new abundance actually has a way to find its way to you? Haven't you ever noticed that? Like, new things come in, right? If you clean out your clothes, oftentimes new clothes end up manifesting in some way, whether you go out and buy them or somebody gives you some, or it always works like that. Especially if you're trying to make room for something in your life, it can work by cleaning a space. It can work by cleaning your mind, right? Dumping things out onto a journal. But when it comes to people, when you actually take your power back, remove toxic people from your environment, or maybe just put some space. It doesn't mean you have to cut everybody off. You make room for the right people who are going to love you the way that you need to be loved to show up. People, I always say, are a blessing or a lesson. And also, sometimes people are not with you for life. It's okay. Sometimes they get off your train, right? Train's always moving forward, not backwards in this scenario. We can't go back. And sometimes people have to get off at certain train stations, and you might not see them for a while, and they'll come get back on another time, or maybe they won't. Maybe they got to catch another train to go somewhere else. The point is, if you keep people around you that are unsupportive, that you have to constantly fight to make them see you, to understand you, to love you, to even like you, those are not your people. And the people that will love you, you have to make room for them to show up. And then the last thing I want to do for your reading is read a little bit of Ceremony by Brianna Weiss. We're just going to do some bibliomancy. This book will, of course, be linked down below for you. We're just going to flip to a random page. This one. This is page 110 and 111. Ooh. I'm going to read these both to you. These are just messages from Spirit to close the reading out. You must reconcile the part of you that feels you don't deserve so much goodness. You must slowly adapt to longer and more heavenly states of being. You must marry your potential. You must practice your own greatness. You must weave your way out of your own doubt. You will scale the mountain only as you master the climb. And then we have, if you could only see how many answered prayers you have within your hands, you would never fear the future. You would never fear what's next. Ooh, I got the chills both times. So that is what I have for you, pile number 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. If you would like to support me more around the web, please check out my Patreon, where I put out new content every single week. This month, for the first time ever, we are doing a community night where I'm actually going to be doing private readings for patrons. If you're at the Cosmic Pumpkin tier or higher, I don't expect, they're usually pretty small. Like, sometimes we only have like 10 people there. So I do kind of expect to get to read for everyone, but I do not promise that I'll be able to read for every single person, but I'll just be taking questions basically live. You can sit in the chat while I read them, but I'm actually going to be doing readings with the community. So like personalized ones, just one question readings for anybody that is a patron at that level or higher. So if you want to be a part of that, be sure to join the Patreon. But there's also many other reasons. You get like so much stuff for joining. There are so many videos that get put out over there every month. We do like a minimum of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to say like 7 videos plus a card of the month plus the community night. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. I feel like my Patreon's pretty cool. And it really does support me as a creator. So please check it out. If you want to get that course, The Authentic Self, it's available on my website, as well as private readings. If you'd like to book an astrology chart with me or a tarot card reading, I do have readings available on my website, KhloeTaylor.com. If you'd like to check out my podcast, we have a YouTube channel for it now. And it's also available everywhere you listen to podcasts. So Spotify, Apple, now it's on YouTube as well. Check that out. New episodes every single Monday. It's called Divine Authenticity. We talk about literally everything under the sun: astrology, spirituality, relationships, toxic family, you name it, we're talking about it. So check that out as well. And if you'd like to follow me anywhere around the web, I'm at Kloee Taylor. If you would like to tip me for this reading, I have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, and my wish list down below. Never an expectation, but always appreciated. And please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Bye. All right, pile number 3. If you chose the Angel Aura Quartz or sigil number 75, this is going to be what the heck's going on, what's stressing you out, how can we get through it, and what's coming next. So really more of how can we get through the stress so we can move forward. But for your reading in pile 1 and 2, I felt compelled to start with the outer cards. But for your reading, I'm going to start with sigil 75. And sigil 75, I'm going to read this right out of the book. It's a little bit lengthy. These are long descriptions, but they're going to give us a better feel for what the heck is actually going on and really unpacking it. So sigil number 75, incompatibility. If you've drawn this sigil, incompatibility is present and you are not seeing or acknowledging it. This could be incompatibility with anything, such as another person, a living environment, a health or spiritual practice, a group, or a job. You are being called to stop trying to force a square peg into a round hole and accept this incompatibility so you can allow yourself or someone else to gravitate towards what is compatible instead of continuing to try to change what will not change. Incompatibility is the condition of two things being so different in nature and so uncomplementary in that difference that they are incapable of coexisting harmoniously. It is tempting to assume that incompatibility is simply about having differences, but what incompatibility is really about is putting people with these non-harmonious differences in roles or positions with each other that require there to be either no difference or that require a difference that is non-harmonious in nature to be harmonious. When incompatibility is present in a relationship, it is usually very difficult for people to admit it, to change the nature of their relationship, to change their roles in each other's lives, or to end the relationship. We want everything to work out so badly because we can't face the reality of the incompatibility because of what it would mean to us. But due to this, we destroy the relationship. We try to make the other person compatible with us by making them wrong or bad for their difference, which creates shame in them. And they most likely will do the same to us. After a while, the emotional condition of the relationship itself is shame and resentment towards each other because of it. Often when we make the other person wrong for their difference, we come up with a reason why they are wrong for it and try then to heal them out of that difference or try to change it so that it doesn't exist. This never works because if you try, the message conveyed by approaching them in the manner will be, you need to be fixed because something is wrong with you. They will feel totally unloved by you and unaccepted, unwanted as they are. There is a time when people, things, or circumstances come into our life specifically so that we will change and morph into different, healthier, more expanded versions of ourselves. The pain we feel in changing so as to align with these people, things, or circumstances is the natural result of growth. There are other times when the pain we feel in changing to align with people, things, and circumstances is not the pain of growth, but the pain of denying who we really are and trying to make ourselves into something that we are not. If you've drawn the sigil, this is one of those times that the pain does not mean positive growth. It means either you are resisting your true self or someone else's true self, or someone else is resisting your true self or their own. For anything to improve, you need to own up to the incompatibility and stop forcing yourself or anyone else sideways. Gravitate and let them gravitate towards something that is truly compatible. So this could literally be an incompatibility in a relationship. Based on the surrounding cards of what is stressing you out, I will not lie to you. Some of you, it really is your relationship with someone else. But the supporting cards don't really say that to me. I don't think the majority of you, it's a relationship. It's incompatibility with yourself in some way. Do you ever feel, and I fully relate to this pile. I actually knew before I started reading this one that this pile was also for me. That does happen. If you didn't know that, tarot card readers do experience this. It doesn't happen very often to me, but periodically there will be a pile that spirit will tell me like, this one is also for you. So I would say that with the incompatibility, something that is coming up very loudly is that it's an inner incompatibility. It's funny too, pile number 2, if you felt drawn to 2 and 3, definitely go back and listen to 2 as well, because pile number 2 talked a lot about parts work as well. And I know we talk a lot about parts work on my channel. I mean, I have my course to The Authentic Self, which is all about parts work and doing it with yourself. It's available at KhloeTaylor.com if you want to check that out. It's $12. Link for that is always down below. It really will walk you through this process and help you to overcome. But this to me says that there's an incompatibility inside. There's incompatibility with an aspect of yourself. And I feel like I can kind of see what it might be. Again, pile 2 and 3 also feel linked, but this pile is different. So number 1, we have the Magician, then the 6 of Cups, then King of Pentacles, and the Star. So on one hand, oh man, this is rough. Okay. I feel like I'm really showing my whole ass with this one. But with the Magician and the 6 of Cups, the stressor is that we want to be the person that creates worlds, right? We want to create things. We want to create our life. We want to be this master manifester and make everything. And like, to me, it's like almost an overuse of positivity where it can be bypassing of things because it's an overuse. It's like positivity to like blindness. And the 6 of Cups is all about the past. And so I feel like there are some aspects of the past that you are trying to overcompensate by being very positive about an experience that you had instead of actually grieving. And this is something that I think is way more common than you think. So please don't shame yourself for this. I myself fall into this from time to time. Like I said, I'm showing my whole ass with this one, but the Magician and the 6 of Cups together as a stress point. This is the fact that you are trying to not let yourself grieve the past. You're not letting yourself flow through what you've gone through. And this is like creating a repeat. This is creating patterns in your life that keep coming up because you haven't actually done the work that it requires to move past it. And when something repeats in your life constantly, it is a sign that you have not learned the lesson that this thing keeps bringing into your life to teach you. So the reason for it is that you keep trying to use positivity, optimism, manifestation to get yourself out of a situation that keeps calling you back. And it could even be something that was really traumatizing that keeps coming up. But the thing is, until you actually work with that part of yourself that was originally traumatized, and please remember, I'm not a therapist, y'all. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mental health professional. I am just telling you what A, spirit is giving to me, and B, no, it's really all spirit. The cards are kind of just placeholders. But it's you can process those things. And sometimes you think you're over something and you're not, and it's okay. There might even be shame where somebody has told you to just get over something. But if you don't actually let yourself fall apart, you cannot put yourself back together. It is an unsolid foundation to start with. You have to let the undoing, the grieving, and the hurt come out first. Otherwise, you build yourself on top of shaky ground every single time, no matter what it is. So this is the stressor. Then we have over here King of Pentacles with the Star. This is a difficult stressor because on one hand, the Star is like, it is trauma recovery. That's something that the Star indicates. But the Star also indicates authenticity, being yourself, beating to your own drum. And then here we have this damn King of Pentacles, right? I think the King of Pentacles was King of Pentacles in the last reading too? I think it was. Again, piles 2 and 3 are kind of linked. King of Pentacles in the Star tells me that you feel like you have to compromise your authenticity to make money. And that is stressing you out. You want to just be the authentic version of yourself. You want to just exist, to be, to frolic, to rest, to read, to paint, whatever it is. You want to just like exist. The Star to me is existing. But the King of Pentacles says you have to have earthly material. Otherwise, the airy-fairiness cannot exist without both. And this could come down to like finances being stressful. And then you feel like you have to compromise yourself in order to make money. And this is very common in the creative sphere. People feeling like they have to overwork to make sure that they can make their bills, right? Make sure that they are okay, because unfortunately the archetype of the starving artist is still real. I don't think it has to be real. I think there are plenty of artists that are rich and you can become rich being an artist. But I do feel like if you have the mentality that you can't, it's going to be hard to see outside of that. And the star tells me that there's a stress point between being yourself and making money. The two are not in agreement with each other. And let's see how we can move through these, because that's going to be we want to know how we can solve these issues. So over the Magician, we have the Ace of Pentacles. And I feel like you need to go back to small beginnings. This is like having more gratitude for what you do have. I always talk about this, that you are currently living in a prayer that you had previously. Have you ever, if you're a journaler, have you ever looked back at like your younger self's journals and been like, dang, I'm really out here doing what younger me wanted? Or maybe it was your dream to like have a balcony, and now you live in an apartment with a balcony, and then you totally forgot that younger you even wanted that. I feel like we are constantly living in a version of ourselves that we wanted to be very badly. And that's because desire creates inspired action. Inspired action gets you those desires, right? So the Magician, though, with Ace of Pentacles says that we need to show a little bit more gratitude for the things that we do have. Because aces are always gifts from the universe. They're always a gift coming your way. And also, I feel like this is like, especially with like trying to always use positivity to overwrite the past. When you try to like always be in your magic forcing shit, okay? You miss where the universe actually just like showers you with blessings. And that's always an option. Six of Cups, we have Judgment. It's okay for you to share your story. I really need you to know that. Like, real talk, just from me to you, not me channeling, not me talking to spirit, just from Kloee Taylor directly to you. Do you know how much shit I get in my comments about people talking about me sharing my stories, and like how annoying that is, that the cards are supposed to be about them, and how dare I share personal experience? Because for every one of those comments, I get 2 or 3 of people thanking me for sharing those stories. Because that's how I read, is through storytelling. And it's like the way that I express metaphor. And it's okay to share your story. For every person that is offended by it, you are going to rise up like 10 more people that needed to hear it. And it's okay to reel on the past. There is going to be somebody out there that when you finally move past this lesson that you keep trying to blanket over and not grieve, when you finally grieve it and move forward, there are going to be so many people that need to hear your healed story. Because Judgment is about like rising up so other people can hear the things that you say. This is actually like very powerful. It has the potential to be truly alchemized into power. And then King of Pentacles, we have 6 of Wands. And the star, we have the Emperor. So the 6 of Wands, that's funny because the star also represents like fame and having eyes on you. So does Judgment to a degree. But I say that's funny because the 6 of Wands is like being recognized, but we have it with the King of Pentacles. So sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes, like, don't feel like you have to pressure cook yourself so that you can make a living. Sometimes it's just one person sharing your thing, sharing your art that makes literally your whole career. That happened to me. It's happened to me multiple times. When I used to do gaming back in the day, took one video blowing up to make the whole channel. And that happened here too on Kloee Taylor. It took one video that just like massively blew up that really set up the rest of my channel and everything else that I do. And yes, I put in a lot of diligent work over the years, but it took one video blowing up massively to help me to make this my full-fledged career. And it can be that easy. You can literally get noticed once. And now, like, you know what I was just thinking about recently? I feel like this really applies. Think about Sailor Moon. Okay, most people know who Sailor Moon is. Think about how every time a new iPhone comes out, there's a Sailor Moon case for it. Think about how, like, if you're into makeup, ColourPop has done a branded collab with Sailor Moon. There's Sailor Moon sweatshirts out there. There's pens. There's stationery. It wasn't just a show to people. It's something that it's so famous and it's so popular that to this day, this show came out however many years ago, it still gets brand deals from big companies. It doesn't mean that you're going to burn so bright that you just burn out. You can become as popular, as infamous, and as abundant as Sailor Moon. That level of being noticed is possible for you. To where you don't even have to introduce yourself anymore. If that's something that you're working towards, or that level of income. The Six of Wands is about being recognized. And I feel like if that's like what you think, especially in terms of like money, finances, especially if you have a small business or maybe you're a creative type, Six of Wands over the King of Pentacles, to work through it, you have to stop being afraid to be seen. Because people will see you. And it's good that they do. You need that exposure. It helps you. We are actually better together as humans. And I know it's easier said than done. Oh, just stop being afraid to be seen. Haha, that's so easy. No, it is something that has to be worked through. But just remember that I always say when you get your first hate comment, pop the champagne, because it's a moment of celebration. That's like a rite of passage. Your first hate comment is a rite of passage. When you're getting haters, usually it means that you're blowing up in some kind of way. And not to say that you shouldn't ever like take criticism in and take it seriously, but if people are just like coming for your character for no good reason, just because one person says they didn't like your thing doesn't mean the rest of the world hates it. But you have to allow yourself to really be seen. That is actually where the income or the money or the stability is going to come from. And then the Star card with the Emperor, you need to change your self-concept. If you're worried about your authenticity being compromised, what if being your authentic self also meant that you were your own boss, also meant that you ran your own company, also meant that you were an entrepreneur or somebody that was a leader and in charge? If you change your self-concept, you'll stop fighting against what feels inauthentic to you. You have to show up like that version of yourself in order for it to be integrated. And then I have a couple more messages, and then we're also going to do some bibliomancy at the end. So we have the collective field is impacting you, unforeseen forces in action. How can you relinquish control of the situation that feels blocked? So for my creatives out there, okay, if you run anything online where your face, your voice, something is out there, please, for the love, make sure you're protecting yourself. Get an evil eye, get some black candles, wear some black tourmaline, do spells if you're into that, call the corners, whatever it takes to feel prayed up and protected. Because especially if you're putting yourself out there, your authenticity, your personality, please do not just go out there and raw dog it. I'm sorry, but I got to say it like that because that's how you'll remember, because it's funny. Don't raw dog it. You need to make sure that you're protecting yourself, because even if people like speak ill over your name and they're a million miles away, because we have the internet now, that still comes down on your name. And it is very important that you protect yourself from that energy, because the collective can impact you. And even if it's just like a rude comment, like I said, or a rude email, or somebody just saying some shit or disagreeing with you, but in a really toxic way, not in like an actual, like open to criticism kind of way, you know, criticizing your appearance, maybe that is part of the collective that impacts you still. And Spirit is saying, you need to make sure that you reclaim your own power of your own sphere. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm going to get a picture of this squirrel at some point and put it in the video. Not today. You probably won't get a picture today, but there's this squirrel that hangs out in front of my house a lot. I feed this squirrel peanuts. We are friends. I call this squirrel Beaties, like beady little eyes. Also, I have a cat named Meaties, Archimedes. He goes by Meaties. That acts like a little squirrel and kind of looks like this squirrel. So it's Beaties instead of Meaties. Anyways, it's beside the point. The point that I'm bringing it up for you is that squirrels, I believe nature's always talking to us. And squirrels coming up in this reading, it's literally on my porch, like right in front of me. It's looking for nuts. But squirrels resemble play. They also resemble somewhat like hibernation, preparing, right? They take nuts or seeds or food back and store it up in their cheeks and then put it away. They bury things as well for the winter. And they're also just very playful creatures. So to me, this squirrel coming up in your reading, literally, I'm watching it right now. He's so cute. He or she, I don't know. They are so cute. But this is a sign, even in this reading, as that's coming up for Spirit to tell me, like, hey, that you need to make sure you're making time for play as well. Life should not just be all work and always preparing for the next disaster. You need to make sure that you're playing. Make sure that you're resting. Make sure you're taking time to acknowledge the squirrels if you have them where you live. There's so much spirit medicine when it comes to animals in the natural world. And if you're more curious about the meaning of squirrels, I would encourage you to like actually do a quick little Google search on that. But I know for sure that they resemble play, and also like taking basically a bountiful harvest and storing it up for a later time. And then we have for you, leader of the light. Where are you being called to serve and support others? So there might be a change in direction also for you right now that's coming in. Something new that you feel called to do or called to create or be. And just keep that in mind. Keep your eyes and ears open right now as you make any of these implemented changes that we're talking about. And then lastly, we're going to do some bibliomancy from Ceremony. Y'all know it's one of my favorites. I'm just flipping to a random page. You got page 74 and 75, so I'm going to read these two to you. And it says, the people, places, and things that are destined for you are the ones that give you so much energy as they take. Give you as much energy as they take. What's meant for us becomes a symbiotic force. When we move toward what's right moves towards us. And then we also have, it is okay if you're still healing. It is okay if you are still healing into the person you want to be, right? And this was from Ceremony by Brianna Weiss. Of course, I'll link it down below for you. But those were the messages that Spirit really wanted you to hear. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to support me more, please consider checking out the Patreon. There is new content every single week. This month for Community Night, which I do with the Cosmic Pumpkin tier and up every single month, where I'm actually going to be doing readings, like live readings, and offering those to you, just one question readings. I'm going to try to get to as many people as I can. Community Night is usually pretty intimate, so I expect that I'll be able to read for everyone. So if you want to join for that event this month, please do. You also get a bunch of other stuff for joining, like some weekly energy. You also get weekly energy updates every week in video form. You also get a card of the month. You also get extra pick-a-cards that you cannot get anywhere else. And I also do astrological Mercury's in retrograde right now. I also do forecast predictions every month for everyone as well, or at least everybody at the pumpkin tier and up. So If you want more of that, please do come and check out the Patreon. It really does support me as well as a content creator when you join. It's like a really great place to offer that. So if it calls to you, check it out. I also have private readings available to you at KhloeTaylor.com, as well as my course, The Authentic Self. It's $12. Helps you do parts work and actually meet these parts of yourself that might be struggling. So definitely check that out if you feel like it calls to you. I also have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, and my wish list listed for you down below if you'd like to leave me a tip. It's never an expectation, but always appreciated. And of course, my podcast, Divine Authenticity, new episodes every Monday on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links for that are all down below. And I feel like I'm forgetting something, but honestly, Mercury's in the microwave. The eclipse is this week. My brain is fried. So I hope this reading helped you out. Please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.